Alright, so we're going to kick off Maybelline with all of the palettes they launched. So the first thing that I saw released this spring was the City Kits all-in-one eye and cheek palettes. This is actually the first thing that I went out to try and stalk and find. The pastel one didn't necessarily appeal to me. I just didn't feel like there were colors in there that I was going to reach for a ton, but I was definitely interested in the Pink Edge palette. It comes with a really pretty sort of dusted, muted pink blush, and then a highlighter that is kind of a light pearlescent pink highlighter. To be honest, the highlighter was a complete fail for me. I didn't feel like it gave me any glow at all. It was kind of powdery and chunky. I did like the blush. I thought it was nicely pigmented. It was easy to blend out. The matte shades blend really easily. I would say pigmentation on this is buildable, so you're probably going to have to build the matte shades up a little bit as you put them on your eye. For me personally, once again, I don't mind that. I sometimes find that those super pigmented shades that you dip your brush in and it's like blam pigmentation are almost a little more challenging to work with. So I don't mind building up my matte shades to kind of blow out my crease and add some depth to my eye looks. The shimmers in here are nothing to write home about. I would say that they're more satin than metallic. So in my experience, I definitely saw some fading with the shimmers around the 8-9 hour mark. So depending on how long you need your makeup to last, that may be a consideration for you. For me personally, I like the color tones in here. I don't feel like there's been a lot of cool tone offerings at drugstore or high-end lately. So I was excited to see a more cool toned palette in here. Like I said, about the only thing I couldn't make work and that I didn't enjoy using in here was the highlighter. So, you know, when I think about of all the products I've tried about adding things to my collection, this is one that I will definitely add to my collection and I can see myself reaching for. I could see myself traveling with this as well. I would just probably pack a different highlighter. All right, so now let's talk about the Total Temptation eyeshadow and highlight palette. This retails for $11.99. This one I didn't like as much. So there's a couple reasons for that. Let's talk about the highlighters first. You've got a gold and a purpley sort of lavender highlighter here in the middle. Both of them have significant chunky glitter particles in them. I will say that the chunky glitter is definitely more pronounced in the purpley shade than it is in the gold shade, but regardless, these are not highlighters that I would use because of the glitter. As far as the eyeshadows go, the mattes are better than the shimmers, so similar to the last palette, but these are incredibly powdery. So what's tough is these stick up out of the pan, and when you put your brush in, powder's kind of going everywhere and it's very easily getting mixed in with the other shadows because they're raised up out of the pan. So when I look at the eyeshadow, similar to the last palette, the mattes definitely still have to be built up. I found the mattes a little easier to work with in the City Kit than I did with this one. These I found to be more powdery and less pigmentation, whereas this had some powder kick up. I felt like it was a smooth, even application. This one, not quite so much. The lavender shade over here on the side had a ton of chunky glitter in here, so I had to put that one over top of a sticky base. I used the NYX glitter glue as a base when I put that shade on. When I did that, it lasted on my eyes, but I still had glitter fallout even with that sticky base underneath it, so it makes me hesitant to use this shade again. I don't know. I like where they were going with this palette. I just don't feel like it delivers, and it's not one that I would recommend you seek out. So there's a new City Mini palette. It is exclusive to Walgreens at this point. I don't know if it's going to go elsewhere, but it's called Matte About Town, and it's got a really nice range of mattes. I think that the mattes in the City Mini palettes have been great, and I really enjoyed them. And this formula is that same formula, so I think that they're easy to blend out. They're a thinner formula, so they do kick up a little bit of powder, but once again, they're super easy to blend, diffuse. I don't find that they get super muddy in the process, and then they're definitely buildable if you want a more intense color. Kind of been hit or miss on some of the City palettes. I went through all of the ones that I had owned, and I had picked up quite a few in my eyeshadow Declutter, the drugstore version. I will link that one down below. I will link the whole playlist actually. So if you're interested in learning more about the City Mini kits, that's a good place to go. This is definitely one that I would say you'd probably be pretty happy with. So one palette that's gotten launched, and I will admit to you guys that I just picked this up. So I have swatched it for the video, but I have not played with this on my eyes. But I got to the point here where I was like, I've got to start getting these videos out, or we're not going to have them out until the middle of summer, and then how relevant is this information going to even be? So this is the Lemonade Craze palette, in case you were wondering what the heck I was talking about. This came out on Amazon first, and now it is also available at Ulta. It retails for $10.99. So I have swatched this. I've not played with this. This feels like the same formula that's in these City Mini palettes. Past experience teaches me anything. The mattes in here here will be good. There will be some shimmers that are super easy to work with and really lovely on the eyes, and then there will be others that are pretty much just glitter toppers, which, listen, there's a time and a place for glitter topper. I'm not going to knock that, but it's not my favorite eyeshadow formula. I will call it what I've heard several people say, which is if you kind of cover up the yellow and sort of that hot pink shade, this is a very neutral palette, so you really got to decide how much of your desire to own this is just based off of the cute yellow lemonade packaging. But I also think it is a good, unique palette for the drugstore. So I'm excited to see more traditional brands like L'Oreal and Maybelline making interesting palettes. The last palette that they released, and I think this may have been out in Europe before now, and it may just now be working its way to the States, but it's new to us. I believe the only place I've seen this is on Amazon at this point, but it is the Burgundy Bar eyeshadow palette. It has 12 different shades in there. It appears to potentially be all shimmer. There might be a couple mattes hidden in there. I can't quite tell from the images online. This palette just didn't really call to me. I've seen absolutely no reviews on it, so I can't even give you any context for what other people are experiencing with it. If you have tried this palette, leave us a comment down below so we know maybe what your thoughts are on it. So let's move on to some other Maybelline eye products. So they released a new mascara. This is the Total Temptations mascara, and then they did do a waterproof version. The waterproof version's been a little harder to track down, but I did try the regular just black Total Temptations mascara. I love the packaging. I actually love that it's kind of got this flat side. It just feels really nice in the hand, so I really liked applying it. It has a natural bristle brush, and to be honest, I wonder if this is going to be comparable to what L'Oreal did with the Lash Paradise. It's just not as good. So I just felt like this mascara was okay. It gave me okay volume. It gave me okay length. It didn't really hold the curl all that well, so it didn't flake or smudge on me. I have seen people with lovely lashes put this on and it looks a lot better. I just feel like there are better mascaras at the drugstore, so this one is going to be a pass for me. Product that I didn't expect to like, but I actually like a lot, is their Total Temptation Eyebrow Definer Pencil. So I picked up the shade Medium Brown. First of all, I'm totally digging this little baby spoolie at this end. I kind of love the size and shape of it for kind of brushing through your brows. I don't know, I've never seen this shape before, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I really enjoy it. The pencil is kind of a diamond shape at the end, and because it's got a very unique, I think, very pointed diamond shape, you can definitely use this to draw in very precise brow hairs. Now, if you're used to a very like the NYX Micro Brow Pencil or the Anastasia version, this is probably not going to be your favorite. But if you're like me and you like a little bit of a thicker pencil to fill in your brows, I think you may actually really enjoy this shape. The formula is where I think this product really shines, because I don't feel like it's too waxy, nor do I feel like it is too pigmented. I don't care for either end of the spectrum. I find formulas like this the easiest to apply because it really lets me control how much product goes down in my brows based on how much pressure I'm using. Sometimes those really waxy ones, I feel like I have to dig into my brow, and that I hate that. But then on the opposite end, I really dislike really pigmented brow products where if you barely touch it to your brows, it's putting down a ton of product and then it's just really intense too fast. This is that perfect sort of middle formulation that I really enjoy. So I have really liked this. There's only 4 shades out there. Once again, the drugstore doesn't come out with a ton of brow shades, but if there's a shade here that you think would work for you, I would definitely recommend this. They also released a Tattoo Studio waterproof eyebrow gel in 4 colors. This had kind of a strange doe foot applicator to it. It's supposed to be one of those products that lasts for 2 days. Personally, I didn't pick one of these up. It didn't necessarily appeal to me. I have seen a few people since use this and really enjoy it, but even they will admit that the applicator sucks, and they will take an angled liner brush and pick up some of the product off the doe foot to put it in their eyes. So heads up on that. 2 liner collections that they launched. One is their Lasting Drama Light Eyeliner. These retail for $5.99. These are metallic colors. I didn't really feel like I needed any of these metallic colors in my life. I have these already in pencil form through other brands, so wasn't interested in those. They released a Target exclusive. This is the Lasting Drama Matte Lacquer Gel Eyeliner. So I didn't pick up any of those, but this is definitely a product from Design that is duping the little Tartist. I have a sample here. They're their clay paint liners. They're a cream liner that has this interesting sort of well, and you squeeze that product from the bottom and then you pick it up out of this little well with a brush brush and apply it. I personally did enjoy this style of liner from Tarte. I've kept several little sample versions of them because I never feel like I go through them very quickly. So I didn't feel the need to pick up any of these bright colors or black liners. I feel like I have tons of black liners, but just wanted to call out that this is definitely a dupe for a higher end product. Let's move on to the face products. One primer that they launched is their Face Studio Master Primer Hydrate and Smooth. This retails for $9.99. I really like this. So this is the type of primer that I probably have replicated several times over in my collection. It's that cream formula that is definitely hydrating but also is smoothing. It reminds me a little bit of the L'Oreal one we just talked about, or the Ordinary High Adherence, or this Rimmel Fix and Perfect. So all of them kind of have that same texture. It's hydrating to the skin, but I also think it does a nice job of smoothing. And then I also feel like it gives you a tacky base that really does make your foundation kind of lock in and last longer when you use products like this. While I don't think this is maybe a unique product on the market, I really did enjoy using it. I will say it does have sort of a silicone dimethicone scent to it. If you've ever smelled silicones and dimethicones, you probably know what I'm talking about. I don't notice it once it's applied onto my skin. The only time I really notice it is if I really get in there and smell it off my hand. So I don't feel like the smell is anything that's like hyper negative, but they didn't add any fragrance, so you are smelling some of those silicones and dimethicones that are in here. Do enjoy this. I will absolutely keep this in my collection and probably use it up. But I would also point out that if you like these, there's probably some cheaper options out there that are very comparable. In their success with the Master Chrome highlighter last fall, it was no surprise to me to see them release some new shades. So they released a Master Chrome metallic highlighter in Molten Rose Gold, but then they also released what they're calling Master Holographic Prismatic highlighters. That is a mouthful. They've released the shade Opal, which I have seen in a ton of different stores, but then there's also a purple shade out there, which personally I have not seen at any drugstores or anywhere. I have spotted this online only, and it may just be that retailers haven't brought it into their stores because they know how many people are really going to want a bright lavender highlighter. The Opal shade for me, I just felt like wasn't going to be my cup of tea because I could definitely see lots of glitter shimmer particles in there. Did, after much debate, make the decision to go ahead and try the rose gold shade, even though when I stare at this in the container, it just looks like something that is going to be incredibly too dark on my skin. So here's what I would say about this product. One, I can get this to work on my skin tone if I use a light hand, and I don't expect it to have a lot of lifting properties. At that point, I feel like it's one of those highlighters that's very close to my skin tone, and if I buff it in, it kind of just gives my skin some glow without necessarily lightening and brightening and lifting my cheek. This formula is definitely one that you're going to have to buff into your skin. It is a thicker formula. So its first ingredient is something called capric triglyceride. It's a derivative of coconut oil and glycerin. It comes in the form of an oily liquid, sometimes mistakenly referred to as a fractionated coconut oil. So they've taken something that is an oily liquid and mixed it in with a bunch of different powder ingredients to get this formula. So in my humble opinion, as a non-chemist, just as a consumer who reads too much about ingredients online, I definitely feel like that as the #1 ingredient is giving it that thicker, almost creamy-like texture, but it also means because it's got an oil in it, you really do need to buff it into the skin. Otherwise, it ends up sitting on top of it and really emphasizing texture and looking a little strange in my opinion. But if you want a super metallic beam from the gods, the most intense highlight you've ever seen, this will not disappoint you. I have seen that Maybelline has more shades of this in the works, and I'm kind of excited to see them maybe release a couple of shades that are a bit lighter for me. I don't hate this on my skin tone, but I will also admit it's probably not one I will reach for all of the time. Alright, so up next, let's talk about their foundation release, or should I say re-release, and this is the Superstay Full Coverage Foundation. This retails for $11.99 and comes out in 16 shades, so that's a decent shade offering for the drugstore, I feel. As you can see, I have 3 shades checked off here that I have tried. The first one I tried, 102 Fair Porcelain, was way too light on me, so I am pleased to see that there's actually a light shade at the drugstore because, in my opinion, I usually grab the lightest shade and oftentimes it's too dark for me, and I have friends and my sister who are significantly paler than me who really struggle to find things at the drugstore. So 102 Fair Porcelain is definitely a great light shade out there. But I do think this foundation is going to be hard for a lot of people to shade match, and here is why. One, this is a super full coverage foundation. So when you're using a full coverage foundation, my personal opinion and experience is that you really need to have something that is a really solid shade match for you. Because your skin isn't peeking through it all, because this is going on completely full coverage, if it's different than your neck or different than your arms, it really does start to look like a mask on your skin. So you've got to find a shade that's very close to your skin tone, in my opinion, when it gets into full coverage territory. I find that light and medium coverage foundations are a lot more forgiving from a shade match perspective, much easier to blend in and make look natural. With full coverage, you've got to find a close shade match. That becomes a lot more challenging with this foundation because this one dries down at least a shade, if not 2 shades darker than what is in the bottle. I don't think it oxidizes in the sense that it goes orange on you. I haven't noticed that, but I definitely have felt like it is significantly deeper upon drying. So when 102 for Porcelain didn't work, I went up to shade 110 and I realized that I had 110 in Dewy and Smooth, and this one actually worked really well for me. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to be 110. When I put this on my face, I was like, oh my gosh, this is way too fair. Gosh, I'm going to have to go up another shade. That's crazy. I never have to do this at the drugstore. So I took this off because it looked way too light on my skin, and I went out and got the shade 112 Natural Ivory. Now this was obviously too dark for me, but I thought, you know what, I'll mix them together and then at least I can give this foundation a fair shake. So I mixed them together, I put them on my skin, it looked great as I was applying it, and then by the time I got done with my makeup, I was like, what has happened? My skin is so much darker than it should be. So that's when I started to realize that this foundation darkens significantly while drying. I have since found that shade 110 is actually a good shade match for me, but I have to wait for it to dry to really have it look like it is something that matches my skin. I don't love that about this foundation, to be honest. But I will also say, as far as full coverage foundations go, I think this is a good one. The way that I found this foundation to go on the best for me personally is I like to put a little bit on my face, I rub it in and kind of warm it with my fingers, and then I will take a beauty blender and kind of blend it out and diffuse it around my face. I find that this is one of those foundations, kind of like my NARS Natural Radiant foundation that I talked about in my Sephora haul, that really does work better if you can get a little bit of warmth from your fingers to kind of blend it into your skin first and then finish it off with either a brush or a beauty blender, depending your preference. I find that it is a lot more natural and a lot less heavy looking on my skin when I do that. Now, my personal experience is that full coverage foundations tend to look a little heavy or cakey on me. This one I don't think does. It has just a really nice skin-like finish to it. It's not super matte, it's not super dewy. I have seen that people with really oily skin do not get along well with this foundation, and I've also seen that people with super dry skin don't get along well with this either. So I think if you are normal to combo, not on one of the extremes, this might work for you if you're looking for a full coverage foundation. I would just highly encourage you to warm this up with your fingers first, because I really do think it makes applying it a lot easier. I do love that it comes with a pump. Everything needs to come with a pump, please, please. My only word of caution if you're interested in trying this is when you're standing in the store, go a shade lighter than you think you need, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to end up drying down to something that matches your skin tone better. Let's transition on to lipsticks. There was a line expansion for the Maybelline Matte Ink lipstick. You kind of knew that was coming after the success of the Matte Ink. So this is the Superstay Matte Ink Unnude Liquid Lipstick Collection. It retails for $9.49. They have 10 new shades. Definitely some of your more traditional nudes, and then, as the name Unnude would suggest, some funkier colors in there as well. I was excited for the shade expansion because the one thing that I really felt was missing from that first launch was nude colors. They had pinks and berries and reds and oranges and purples, but they were really missing a solid mix of nudes. This is a formula that you are either going to love or hate. So the pros for this lipstick is that it truly is the longest lasting lipstick I have ever tried in my life. I do not have great experience with liquid lipsticks that even other people say last all day on them, lasting more than 4 to 5 hours on me. In my opinion, they start to break down, they start to crack. They definitely don't make it through meals. They need to be reapplied and retouched. This puppy lasts. I mean, lasts through eating pizza, lasts through eating a juicy cheeseburger. I mean, I just am shocked at how well this formula lasts on my lips. That being said, the dry down on this is very long. I mean, it's gonna take you a good 5 to 10 minutes before I really feel like this thing is set and not moving on my lips. And even then, once it's set, I can definitely still feel it on my lips, and there's a hint of a tackiness that is left. So for a lot of people, that slight tackiness and then also just being able to feel it on your lips is kind of a deal breaker for them. So I get it if this isn't your favorite formula. For me personally, I don't mind feeling it on my lips, and I never feel like my lips are sticking together. And this is coming from somebody who hates super sticky glosses, and when my lips feel like they're just like stuck together. I never get that with this once they've set down. I will say for that first maybe 10 minutes while it's still setting, it's definitely a lot stickier. Give it the full 10 minutes and then I think you'll feel maybe a little bit different about it. But the fact that I really do trust these to last for 8 to 10 hours through meals, even greasy meals, without failing me, it's just really nice. Enough rambling. I did pick up 4 new shades here. I picked up the shade Poet, which is that perfect peachy nude that was really desperately missing from their first collection. I didn't get the shade Driver. It looked a little too light for maybe what I like in a nude lipstick, but I absolutely love the shade Poet. The shade Seductress is several shades deeper, so it is a great mid-tone nude. It is definitely more neutral than warm, so whereas I say Poet is a little warm, is a warm peachy nude, I would definitely say Seductress is more of a neutral nude. Number 80 Ruler is one of my favorite sort of go-to shades when I want to wear a red lip, but I don't want something that's super bright. It's a really nice desaturated red color that is going to give you that look of wearing a red lip without that like blam in your face sort of brightness. So I love shades like this. It's kind of my favorite go-to red for work situations. And then I wanted to try one of the more funky colors, so I picked up the shade 95 Visionary, and this is just a really fun sort of murky lavender color. It's a very cool tone, sort of grungy color, which you're either going to love or hate. I like a color like this. I think it's fun to play with pastels in the springtime, and then I can definitely do some murky, grungy looks in the fall. So I'm really pleased to have all of these new colors in my collection. Interesting lip product Maybelline came out with are their Lip Studio Python Metallic Lip Kit. This is a lipstick on one side and then what is essentially an eyeshadow on the other. I got the most what I consider to be neutral shade. This is the shade 30 Provoked, and it ended up being a little more cool toned than I thought it was going to be. So it's a lipstick on one side and then a powder, almost eyeshadow on the other. So I got the most neutral shade because I thought I might be able to apply this one with my finger. That is definitely doable. I don't mind the lipstick side of this. I think it's a pretty enough color, and I was able to apply it with my finger like I said. My challenge is that when I put the powder over the top of it, it instantly dries out your lip. Well, no shock, you just put a powder on your lip, right? The problem I have with that is that it immediately sinks in and emphasizes all my lip lines. It just emphasizes all the texture on my mouth and makes everything look really dry. I didn't care for the combination of putting a metallic powder over top of a lipstick like this. I just didn't really care for how it looked on my lips when I did it. Also released a little micro collection is what I would call it of their Color Sensational, and they did a powder matte lipstick. So they have a lot of matte lipsticks out there. It's a formula that a lot of people really enjoy. And so powder matte I think is their answer to kind of that next step up of matteness. So if you think about the matte formula with ColourPop and then Matte X. If you think about matte lipsticks, they have their matte formula and then they have their retro matte. So this is kind of their version of the retro matte or the Matte X formula. It's definitely a thicker formula. It does have a bit of a tug going on your lips, but it's going to give you that full matte look in a tube of lipstick. The biggest challenge I had with this was just kind of the color range didn't really call to me. There was a strange green that I never thought I would use. There was a gray color. There was a taupe that I knew I wasn't going to reach for. There was a red that was interesting, but I thought, you know what, I've got enough red lipstick. So I ended up getting the shade Nocturnal Rose, and I gotta be honest, although I will not go out and purchase any of the other colors here, I have really enjoyed this sort of orchid dusty pink color. I think it's really pretty. I don't wear a ton of true pink lipstick, but when I do, this is kind of the color that I like the most. I didn't find this to be incredibly drying, but I definitely felt that the formula wasn't very moisturizing either, and I definitely wanted to exfoliate before I put it on because this formula did tend to emphasize any sort of crusty bits on my lips. So if I exfoliated and I had kind of primed my lips ahead of time, I liked how this looked, and I also found that it was really pigmented, and because it was a little bit more of a drier texture, similar to the Retro Matte formula from MAC, it lasted a really long time. But if this formula intrigues you, or if you've tried other formulas like this and you enjoy them, I have nothing bad to say about the shade Nocturnal Rose. I've really enjoyed wearing it. So future editing Sarah here. My microphone stopped working for some reason as I went to talk about these last two lip products. They released a Lip Studio Glitter Gloss. There are 6 shades. These retail for $8.99. And then they also released a Lip Studio Lip Foil, also $8.99. The first appears to be another sort of glitter topper. The latter, I'm not sure if this is a liquefied lipstick. They're calling a metallic liquid lip, but I'm not sure if this is just going to be more like a thick metallic gloss or if it's actually a true dry down liquid lipstick. Both of these collections are available out on Target's website, and I've seen them a couple other places, but I haven't seen them in stores yet. This is one of the last sort of spring offerings from Maybelline. For the time being, I didn't feel the need to go hunt these down and order them online. So along with my mic not working for those last 2 products, it also didn't work for the wrap-up, so just wanted to say thanks for watching, you guys. Next up, we're going to be talking about Milani and Flower. Look forward to seeing you guys in my future videos. Hope you're having a great day. Bye.